A new survey suggests that pride in American nationalism is at an all-time low. In other words, people don't feel proud of their country anymore. I bet the same is true in many, many countries in the world. What is patriotism? What are the feelings that we bind to a nation that we belong to? Does it come from tribalism, our love of family? And what different visions of a nation, of togetherness, of interconnectivity and community could we create that perhaps might be more beneficial than the systems of patriotism that we already have? A recent poll has found that only 36% of those aged 18 to 24 said that they were extremely or very proud to be American. I suppose proud means that part of your own individual identity is connected to the identity of your country. Look at the recent football tournaments in Europe, or one football tournament, like that it conjures up feelings of patriotism. But that is at least a double-edged sword and perhaps a weapon that is impossible to conceive of because it's imaginary. Like this is a really great quote from President Ronald Reagan, of all people. Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected and handed on to them to do the same. Or one day we'll spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States when men were free." Now, of course, I would change that word to people, and I reckon what Reagan means by freedom is patriotism, which is a kind of conditioning. I'm not attacking America or England or any country. I'm just inviting you to recognize that it's a kind of construct, a landmass, a set of principles and ideas that we all voluntarily agree in. It's curious sometimes that you get people that are atheists, rationalists, materialists that don't believe in God, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism or whatever, but do believe in country. So the idea that pride in nationality or patriotism has fallen, in a sense, means that people are disassociating from a dominating narrative. And as Reagan says, we're never more than a generation away from changing the world. If there were some apocalyptic event afterwards from the ashes, would you look to recreate these systems? Would you be saying, right, who's going to be the billionaires then that are on the brink of space discovery? You wouldn't, would you? You would look to create a fairer, more equal system based sort of on rational, logical things. We've got this many resources. There's this many of us. How do communities function? How should we make decisions? We live in a faith-based hierarchical system. That much is true. So in a way, the idea that patriotic feeling is diminishing need not be a negative thing, but some people see that very differently.
So here I am in Manhattan trying to figure out what New Yorkers think about the 4th of July and what makes them a proud American.
I've always been a fan of Judge Jeanine on Fox News. I admire her intensity. Intensity is something that I just enjoy in people. It's extraordinary to see people living hard. Let's see how Judge Jeanine regards the issue of patriotism and connection to your nation.
So what makes you a proud American?
I am a proud American because we're free.
Because we have the right to vote and have a voice in our democracy.
I'm just glad to be alive, so.
The right to vote.
I love this family!
Well, you would, Jeanine. They're parroting your mad ideas. But I suppose that the right to vote, this has always been an interesting subject because the right to vote is a symbol of the idea that you're participating in the power structures that govern your life. That would only really be valuable if your vote meant something, i.e. different types of institutions, parties, ideologies would be in place as a result of your vote. As Chomsky points out, all the issues that both parties agree on, you have no choice on at all. So no parties are saying, why don't we devolve power? Why don't we look to create real equality? Why don't we place some regulation on the way that power tends to centralise and concentrate, whether that's at a state or corporate level. So patriotism is a kind of an umbrella term that means accept these ideologies. This land mass, this set of ideals are all barreled or bunched together and we'd like you not to question them or query them. Patriotism's a kind of shortcut. When I experience patriotism, and I sometimes do as an English person, football tournaments, sometimes when I'm abroad, I sort of feel like, oh, England, because all of my experiences in my life, I love English people. I love the country of England. I've got so much love wrapped up in that. But that love then gets sort of somehow parasitically removed and placed onto a set of policies and ideas that don't benefit me at all. Note the way that Ronald Reagan in that quote uses the word freedom. Note how the word freedom comes up again and again. Well, freedom means, for me, a lack of fear and an ability to make decisions and choices. Now, due to the nature of conditioning that's happening at like a state level through education and through law enforcement, on a familial level through culture, how much freedom do any of us really have?
Just, people that serve our army, I love everyone. I love America.
I think most of these people have recognised that they're speaking to Judge Jeanine on Fox News. And this is not a time to start going, well, tell me what you mean, Jeanine. Whose America are you discussing? Are you discussing the America of the South, or the North, of the rich, or the poor, or the black, or the white, or all the various intersectional points between them? The America of the past, the America that was here before European settlers arrived, the America of immediately post 9/11, which incidentally was a spike in patriotism. American patriotism spiked after 9/11, peaking at 70%. We're 70% patriotic in 2003, but has declined since, likely related to broader dissatisfactions with the way things are going in the US. It's interesting that a sense of external attack creates patriotism. That's why you will commonly see enmity stoked through media. Of course, this is like, sort of rebellion 101. You have to have either communism or Islamic terrorism or a pandemic or something. You have to have some externalized idea of there is this threat. You better come together. And basically what we mean by come together is do as you're told. Don't come together to rebel. Don't come together as a band of renegades and say, hey, actually, we don't need to dislocate our power. We could maintain our own power in these ways. No. Surrender, yield. It's a hack, isn't it, patriotism? It hacks into your natural feelings of alliance, togetherness, pride, connection to land. These are all very... Animals have that. When you wake up in the morning and birds are singing, they're not like, oh, good morning, Snow White. They're going, fuck off this tree. This is my tree. Like, we have a connection to territory and land. That's coded into us through evolution. And if you can hack that little code and apply it to someone else's incentives and imperatives, the elites that govern society, it'd be in the obvious example, then you can't think straight. If something bypasses the intellect and goes straight to the primary functions of desire and fear, you can't see straight. Patriotism uses fear and it uses desire. It presents you with symbols of what America is, or England is, or France is, or Saudi Arabia is, and what they are not. And if you don't line your views up with that nicely, then you are a dissident. You are committing treason. You are in trouble.
I'm proud of our history and all of our great accomplishments, definitely.
And are you proud of America today?
Yeah, I am.
There's a little bit of damn. Not so much there in the voice, because like one of the things that this kind of post-structuralist retelling of history, the pulling down of statues, which I know a lot of you guys don't like because of personal investment, or maybe just seeing the world differently than that. Like that's a sort of examining what really happened. Like, let me take my country in case you're American and don't want to annoy you. But like, I sort of think like, the royal family. Well, what is the royal family really? How did they get there? How did Britain get great? You don't have to spend too long looking at OverSimplified videos, link in the description, fantastic stuff, they're retellings of history, to know that really it's just the expression of imperialistic military might on less technologically advanced and perhaps more spiritually evolved nations, and using their resources to bolster your wealth, then, working on your narrative and your propaganda, get yourself a royal family. A royal family is a symbol of hierarchies and oppression. A president is a sort of a comparable thing, bolstered by the myth of independence against the very British that, that I just extolled the inverted commas virtues of. So, it is all right to break down what America means without it being an attack on your family or your grandfather or people that have given their lives. Like my family includes people that have served actively for, ideals that are connected to freedom. And again, who can question that? Because someone that's willing to go to war, whether that's for their family or for their connection to a nation, that's undoubtedly brave, unless it's sort of motivated purely by wild aggression. But it still requires self-sacrifice, But where does that come from? What are the resources? I say to you, be willing to continue to uncover, discover, evolve, look at what is it? What's the actual stuff that's being reached?
The return to patriotism that we've seen in the country, especially with all of the military vets.
Do you think we should?
My family.
Do you think we should have a military parade?
Bloody hell, Jeanine, what now? I got a chicken in the oven.
How come your hat costs $34?
I don't know.
You're getting a bit sidetracked now. Stay focused. What does it mean to be American? Get distracted by being able to see the tag on a man's hat.
You got a tag under there. It says $34.99.
Makes me think that Judge Judy is perhaps not the brilliant broadcaster that I thought she was. She can just distract her. Hey, why are you holding an apple? Where's the apple going? Well, hey, come back, that's my apple!
So you're a proud American because you can pay $34.99 for a cap.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
That's crazy! That's crazy! $34 for a hat! Are you an American? Are you a proud American? Are you turning into a parrot?
The American dream. The fact that we can come here and look at me. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm all the way up here in New York City.
Well, I think what you're celebrating there is air travel.
A freedom in our country, a great president, the Lord Jesus Christ.
Right, well, he wasn't strictly American.
Just being happy, raising a family in a great environment.
Great country?
Great country.
What is going on here with the issue of patriotism? The survey that we're citing said overall 44% of the adults surveyed said they were proud to be an American, 23% were very proud, 50% are moderately proud, and 8% were slightly proud. 6% said they're not proud at all. Like, it's not possible to classify information in that way. But what the survey does show you is that your feelings of affinity and affiliation with your country, or indeed any group with whom you do not share an explicit practicable purpose, i.e. if there's 100 of you and you 100 people are responsible for getting food for that 100 people, providing shelter for that 100 people, and making sure that predators don't kill that 100 people, then you are sort of a cohesive unit. If you're only bonded together by sort of events and ceremonies and flags, and the rest of the time you're arguing about where you stand on hot button issues from gun control to abortion to how a pandemic should be handled, wherever you stand on those various issues, what you're all operating under is the sort of bonnet of a kind of mad trick called patriotism. I'm not exempt from it. I feel it all the time. You could probably get me to stand up during God Save the Queen with just a couple of passages of, I don't know, Orwell or Milton or somebody, but it's important for us to recognise that where our real allegiances should lie, where our real tribalism should lie, I suppose is like universally across the family of humanity, tribally across the people whose lives that we can impact and are impacted by us, and for it not to be sort of founded upon a kind of adversity and opposition to others. Note how these buttons are tweaked and prodded and controlled by the people that look to use patriotism in order to pacify us and direct our attention. Patriotism being at an all-time low may not be a bad thing because it might allow new ideas to emerge. And Ronald Reagan was right. In a generation, we could dream an entirely new dream of society. That don't mean that you don't care about your family or your great-great-grandparents' legacy or what founding fathers may have achieved. It means that you're present now, that America takes place in your head, so you can create a new America. England takes place in my mind, so we can evolve and design new Englands. That should fill you with optimism. Tradition is a lovely guide, but what's more important is optimism. Optimism about where we're going together in the future, not to be stymied, blinkered and blinded by old myths, mad poems and ideas that aren't what they tell you they are. They're simply a cudgel to bludgeon you into obedience. If you like that video, please press like. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. Please sign up to my mailing list, and if you need a bit of meditation now, go over to my Awakening side channel, and there's all sorts of well-being advice, meditation and breathing techniques, loads and loads of good stuff. If you want to see me every week have a deep conversation with a great thinker, subscribe to my Luminary podcast. They're available on Apple. So is a guided weekly meditation on the same site. Most importantly of all, though, recognise that you are a free individual and you can create your own country in your head. None of us believe in the same England or the same America or the same Italy or France or Yemen. It's all a construct in our minds and collective imagination, and that's a positive thing. Is it? Tell me in the comments.